Once upon a time, when Portsoy was very new, there were 3 fairies in the town. They were all good fairies, but Quinelan was the best. Quinelan lived in a little cave just above the first beach at the west side of Portsoy that is known to the older people as Quinelan Bay. Some people say that Quinelan can still be seen on a fine summer night, watching the sun set over the Caithness Hills, but only if you are very good.
Holy green and when tiny heart puts the water and the milk will turn and going castle now that the mill has shut he's in fishing in Boinger. Quinelan Bay, West Bay's way, every day dolphins play.
Wally Green, another fairy, lived in a little hut near where the old mill now stands, and he looked after the supply of water which turned the mill wheel. Wally has not been seen since the mill stopped using the water wheel to drive the machinery. The old people say he retired and went to stay at the Boyne Castle. They also say that he can be seen fishing in the Boyne Burn just about sunrise.
When like glass ahead, plenty wind in his sail, for the cup and saucer windmill. He stole barley, then he did windy wheels, open as the whiskey still. In the May, West Bay's way, every day dolphins play. When the May, West Bay's way, every day dolphins play.
The third fairy was Glen Glosser. He was not really a Portsoy fairy, as he stayed near to the Cup and Saucer, which was then a windmill, and they say that he looked after the supply of wind which drove the mill's sails. They also say that when the miller was not watching, he used to take barley from the mill and make whiskey in the hut near the Glosser Burn. The distillery there was named after him. He has not been seen for many years, but people from Sandown say that they sometimes hear him singing on a stormy night. Glenn used to come to Portsoy when he had whiskey to sell.
All the fishermen's friends, on the moon shines his lantern light. Ships would run aground if he didn't send his bright morning light at night. With the May, West Bay's way, every day dolphins play. Quinelan Bay, West Bay's way, every day dolphins play.
Quinelan was the fisherman's friend, and on dark nights he would sit on the doonie with a lantern to guide the boats in from the sea. It was Quinelan who built the hilly, and that is where the lantern used to be placed. In those days there were monsters in the sea. They were ugly, evil monsters who chased the dolphins and frightened them very badly. They tore the fishermen's nets, cut their ropes, and even turned boats over when they were being very bad. The fishermen were at their wits' end with the monsters, and their only hope was to ask their friend Quinelan for help. Quinelan listened to the fishermen and decided on a plan, which was to get rid of the monsters. Quinelan knew that the monsters liked whiskey, and some said that if they drank enough it would kill them. He knew that once a year the monsters used to come into the harbour to drink from the burn which runs into the sea at the Riches. Quinelan went to Wally Green in Glen Glassa and told them the plan. Wally knew how to control the water in the burn, and Glen knew how to make whiskey. They had two problems. How could they get the whiskey into the burn, and when would they know when the monsters would arrive? Wally Green, who knew all about controlling the burn, said that a dam would have to be built to store the whiskey for the monsters to drink. Therefore, with the help of the fishermen and the farmers, they built a dam, which we now know as Portsoy. The lock had a sluice gate which would hold back the whiskey, and when the monsters arrived, the gate would open and the whiskey would run down the burn for the monsters to drink. But how could they tell when the monsters would arrive? They only came once a year, but there was one man who warned them when the monsters would arrive, and that was Craig Duff.
All they see, Craig Duff. If it knows, he knows. Smelling monsters without feeling fear. From his past he would say no. Those who were living on the pier. Quinelan Bay, West this way. Every day, dolphins play. Quinelan Bay, West this way. Every day, dolphins play.
Craig was a fisherman with a very large nose and a very keen sense of smell. He called his boat Tansy. He was always the first to know when the monsters were coming to Portsoy because he could smell them. Quinelan arranged that when Craig was at sea and could smell the monsters, she would signal from the Tansy, and Quinelan would arrange Wally and Glen to fill the lock with whiskey and be ready for the monsters.
Wally Green and Glen, ready and Portsoy. Were in charge to open sluice gates there. Whiskey filled the burn, such a billion, toiled for their monsters and monster share. Quinelan Bay, West this way, every day, dolphins play. Quinelan Bay, West this way.
One day, Craig smelled the monsters at sea and knew that they were not far away. He signalled to Quinelan, who passed on the message to Wally and Glen, who filled the lock with whiskey. Just when the monsters arrived in the harbour, Wally opened the sluice gate and the whiskey flowed down the burn.
While the whiskey flowed, all the fairies watched, thirsty, greedy monsters went their fill. It was working well, little gladly, ash whiskey made the monsters ill. Quinelan Bay, West this way, every day, dolphins play. Quinelan Bay, West this way, every day, dolphins play.
The monsters who drank once a year drank every single drop and soon became very ill. That was when the dolphins arrived.
Is the great success that it always has been.
Dolphins takes the monsters away. All the tuneful cheered and danced with joy. Yay! Lady Quinelan sits in its Quinelan Bay, watching over in Portsoy. Quinelan Bay, West this way,
All the dolphins in the sea arrive at Portsoy and chase the monsters out to the deep sea where they disappeared. No one knows what happened to them. Some people say that they died. Others say that they are just very ill, and when they get better they will return to Portsoy.
Mary Quinelan sits in his Quinelan Bay, near his little cave of West Bay. In the setting sun, Portsoy dolphins play. Hoping monsters stay away.
As long as Quinelan stays in that little cave in Quinelan Bay, you will be safe from the monsters. And if you are ever out for a walk on a fine summer night, when the sun is setting over the Caithness hills, you might see Quinelan sitting there, but remember, only if you are very good.